Hello, now I will be reviewing the Megadeth discography. If you haven't seen my Metallica one, go ahead and check that out right after this video. So let's go ahead and get started. So, of course, I'm going to go from the bottom to the top, and we're going to start things off with Pooper Collider, or sorry, Super Collider. Now, this album, I mean, I like Kingmaker, I like Dance in the Rain, but that's really about it, though. I mean, the title track it's listenable, but I mean, it's technically not very good, and I just think Dave's vocals in that song are just not very good. But I don't know, I'm just not a big fan of his vocals throughout this album, except for, of course, Kingmaker and Dance in the Rain. But the guitar work is nothing really new, really, at least to me. But I mean, Super Collider is probably at the bottom for me, mainly because it felt really uninspired compared to many other albums in their discography. But next we have, of course, Risk. Now, like Super Collider, Risk does have some songs that I do enjoy. I like Insomnia. I don't care what anyone says. And I even like Crush 'Em. Now, Crush 'Em has some pretty corny lyrics, but I think it's an enjoyable song. But maybe it's one of those songs that has to grow on you if you don't like the song initially or something. But I don't know. I like Crush 'Em. I like I'll Be There. 7 is not too bad. It's a little generic, but it's not terrible though. But there are some songs on the album that do kind of bore me to tears, I guess. Kind of songs like Wanderlust, even though Wanderlust isn't terrible, it's still kind of a boring song. And Ecstasy is just no, absolutely not. But Risk is it's not as bad as people say it is, but I can see why it's definitely near the bottom for most people. But next we have World Needs a Hero. Now, the first half is definitely stronger than the second half in my opinion. But there are some songs that you can just tell that they're definitely low on original ideas. I mean, you can to prove it, just listen to When or Return to Hanger or Dread and the Fugitive Mind. Now, Dread and the Fugitive Mind, I do like that song, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's really anything special, but that's just my opinion. While I do like it, I just don't think it's anything too mind blowing or anything. But the song "When." Now I know that Dave asked Diamond about if he can use the riff from "In My Evil," but still, "When" is just a really long, boring song. I mean, I like how dark it is, but still, it's just a really boring song. And Return to Hangar, for me, just sounded too similar to the first one, Hangar 18. It just sounds too similar, and it just semi bothers me. But this album does have its fair share of good songs, though. I do like Recipe for Hate, Warhorse. And I like the first 5 songs: Disconnect, World Needs a Hero, Motorcycle, which was the lead single, I think. 1000 Times to Goodbye, which I think is a pretty underrated song. I mean, it's not super thrashy or anything, but I do like it though, and I really like its main riff, and of course Burning Bridges. But World Needs a Hero does have problems, but it does have its redeeming factors though. Next we have The System Has Failed, which and the reason it's more towards the bottom is mainly due to just replay value in general. I mean, I like Blackmail the Universe, I like Back in the Day, Die Dead Enough, Of Mice and Men, and Something That I'm Not, which I think is an underrated song. But for me, there's many songs on the album that just don't really stick as much compared to other songs in their discography, such as Tears in a Veil, or Shadow of Death, or Truth Be Told, or I Know Jack. But I mean, it is a good album, but The replay value just isn't the strongest though. Next we have 13. Now I know some people will argue about 13 being above System Has Failed, but for me 13, I don't know, I just like the overall sound on this album a little more, but maybe it's just a preference thing. But I really like Sudden Death. Public Enemy #1 is pretty cool. I think, but We the People and New World Order, I really like these two songs, but We the People I think is just really underrated. I love the chorus, and it's just a really catchy song. And of course Black Swan is another really good song, but I do like 13. It's one of those albums for me that gets better the more I listen to it. Next we have United Abominations, where this album, you can tell definitely the first half is way stronger than the second half. I mean, mainly because, well, based on what I've heard from other reviewers, I always hear people saying that the first half is always stronger than the second half with this album, or the songs on the first half have more replay value or whatever. But I don't know. I can probably agree with that. I really like Sleepwalker. I really like Washington Is Next, Never Walk Alone, Call to Arms. But songs like You're Dead and Burnt Ice just don't really do much for me. I mean, they're good, but I just don't think they're really anything special, and they just really lack replay value. Now, the version of Atula Moon, I don't know if I pronounced that right. I don't know. I'm really sorry if I pronounced it incorrectly, but the version on this album that has the singer of Lacuna Coil, I don't mind it. I mean, I don't listen to it a lot or anything. I prefer the original, but I personally don't have a problem with it though. Next we have Euthanasia, which I think is really a really underrated album. I really like Reckoning Day, which is a pretty catchy song. I mean, sure, it's not super thrashy like their older days, but I still really like it. I like Train of Consequences, of course, Tula Moon. Family Trees, another song that I think is pretty underrated, and same with Black Curtains. But Euthanasia definitely has its hidden gems, and I really like the album. So, since that these guys have a long discography, I'm going to do this in 2 parts and put both parts into one video. So, I'll see you in part 2. Next, we have Cryptic Writings, which, I mean, a fan favorite from this album obviously is Trust, but my personal favorite song on the album is She Wolf. It's just a really catchy, upbeat song that just never gets old for me, and it's maybe one of my favorite Megadeth songs ever, maybe. But I don't know. I really love She Wolf. But I mean, this album does have its fair share of underrated songs like Mastermind and Sen. But this album has some pretty cool stuff. I mean, the production from Dan Huff, I mean, it's not her best production choice, or best production sound, but I personally don't mind the production. I mean, I agree that it's not the best, but I personally don't mind the production. But Cryptic Writings definitely has its fair share of underrated stuff, and of course it has one of the biggest songs, Trust. So next we have Endgame, which was an excellent follow-up to United Abominations. Sorry about that, but Endgame, there's still many songs on the album that still hold up for me, such as, of course, Head Crusher, and I really love This Day We Fight in 44 Minutes, but I can go on and on about this album, but it's just an excellent album. But next we have Dystopia, which, now I've heard arguments about Endgame being better than this album, but I don't know, maybe it's a preference thing, but I really prefer Dystopia, mainly because it's a more darker album, and I feel like the album sounds more closer to their older stuff than Endgame. But maybe that's just me, though. I don't know. I really love Dystopia, and I also have the virtual reality goggles that came with the album. I think it was a limited time deal thing, maybe, but I still have the virtual reality goggles, but I mean, I don't use them or anything. I tried the app for the virtual reality goggles, and it wasn't really working, maybe, or unless I just didn't follow the instructions for how to use the virtual reality goggles. But anyways, Dystopia. I love Lying in State, which it's one of my personal favorites on the album. It's fairly upbeat and just really fun to listen to, and I love the title track. And Poisonous Shadows is a really unique song on the album. It's not as upbeat as other songs on the album, but I don't know, I really like it. But Dystopia is an excellent album. Still holds up for me. Next we have Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. I have the Final Kill and the original, or at least I think it's the original. But I want to show you guys the signed booklet that I got for the Final Kill. It's signed by Dave Mustaine and David Ellefson. Definitely worth the purchase, but I love Killing Is My Business. I like the raw production. Now, I've heard some people say that the production ruins it for them, but maybe this is just one of those albums that you might have to get used to, maybe. But I love Looking Down the Cross and, of course, the title track. But Last Rites / Love to Death has always been one of my personal favorites on the album. And of course, we can't go past this album without talking about, of course, Rattlehead. That's another great song, but still a great album, still holds up for me, still love it. Next we have So Far, So Good, So What. Now, I know there's going to be someone out there who's going to be like, what? How'd you put it that high? Well, hey man, I really love this album. I mean, the production isn't the best, but once you get past the production, you might find something you might really enjoy in this album. I mean, I love Set the World Afire. That's maybe top 5 favorite Megadeth songs. And I can say that with a straight face. I really love that song. It's just really thrashy and just really fun to listen to. And of course, everyone knows In My Darkest Hour. That's another great song. But there's a lot of underrated stuff too on this album, such as Mary Jane and 502. But I mean, I've heard some people say that 502 is filler, but I don't know. I kind of like the song. I believe the song is about speeding, like speeding on a road or whatever, or drunk driving. I don't remember. I think it's speeding on a highway or something. But anyways, I love So Far, So Good, So What. So yeah, great album. Next we have Countdown to Extinction, which was their most mainstream album or most popular album, either this album or Rust in Peace. I really love this album. It still holds up for me. I love Skin on My Teeth. Of course, everyone remembers Symphony of Destruction and Sweating Bullets, but Psychotron and This Was My Life have always been songs that I've felt that were underrated or maybe overlooked. I really like those songs, but Countdown to Extinction, I mean, some might call this album a sellout album because, oh, it's mainstream, it was on the radio. I mean, but who cares? But luckily, I don't see that very much. But Countdown to Extinction is a great album. Next, we have Peace Sells, But Who's Buying, which is a Megadeth classic, obviously. I mean, Wake Up Dead and Peace Sells, everyone knows those songs. Those were big songs for them. But Good Morning Black Friday, that's always been one of my personal favorites on the album. I like how dark it is, especially in the first half of the song. But some people say that, well, most people say I Ain't Superstitious is the weakest song on the album. But, I mean, it is a cover, so, I mean, but I don't know. I like I Ain't Superstitious, but I do agree that it is the weakest song on the album, but I do like it, though. I mean, if I was listening to this album in full, I wouldn't skip it, though. But, yeah, Peace Sells, still an excellent album. Now, my number one favorite Megadeth album, Rust in Peace. What can I say that hasn't been said about this album? It's just a really excellent album. I have the original copy. I don't have the remaster. And I've tried my best to avoid the remasters for Megadeth. I mean, I'm not going to say that the remasters are awful or audibly bad, but I don't know. I prefer the originals, but of course, Holy Wars, The Punishment Due is definitely one of their best songs. It's my second favorite Megadeth song. Wow. But Hangar 18 is my number one favorite Megadeth song. And it was, I think, either my first or second Megadeth song that I heard. But of course, I love Take No Prisoners, but Five Magics. If you love guitar work, definitely listen to Five Magics. That song is excellent. And of course, Tornado of Souls is another fan favorite and another classic from Megadeth. But that is my ranking of the Megadeth discography. Let me know your ranking in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on Megadeth overall. Are you excited for a possible new Megadeth album next year? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section. Have a nice day and take care.